Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're jumping into a topic that really affects every single one of us every day. We're calling it food wars, decoding the American diet. Our mission really is to get past the headlines, the latest diet crazes, and try to understand what's actually shaping our plates, our health, maybe even the planet. And there's this one big question sort of guiding us through all the source material we looked at. It's this: the average American eats around 3,600 calories a day. So the question is, are we fueling health? Or are we fueling disease? That's the mystery we want to explore. Looking at the choices we make, sure, but also the systems around those choices. We'll touch on, whole foods versus fast food, big diet debates, challenges like food deserts, and then look ahead a bit at sustainable eating. Okay, let's unpack this.
It's a good mission.
Yeah.
Because honestly, the information out there on food, it can feel like a jungle. So much contradiction, really passionate viewpoints, sometimes pretty aggressive ones too. So yeah, this deep dive, the goal is to cut through some of that noise, decode what's really going on. We need to look at what fueling health or disease even means, not just for one person, but maybe for communities, even globally, getting into the nuance.
Absolutely. And starting with those 3,600 calories, maybe the most basic choice many of us face is, well, fast food versus whole food. It's something most of us deal with pretty regularly, right? Maybe without even thinking too hard about it. So given that daily reality and just the sheer amount of calories, what are the immediate effects? What does choosing one path over the other really mean, like right away?
It's quite striking, actually, how ingrained these categories are. Fast food, whole food. And their impacts can be, well, pretty different, and not just in the long run. When we talk fast food, we generally mean stuff that's highly processed. Pre-made meals, sugary drinks, fried things. It's often designed for maximum taste, convenience. Our sources mention how they're kind of engineered to hit those reward centers in the brain. Makes you want more.
Right.
But beyond just the calories, something our research highlights is the almost immediate inflammatory response some of these foods can cause. The high salt, the saturated fats, the refined sugars, they don't just add up over months. They can actually trigger like low-grade inflammation in your gut, even elsewhere in the body pretty quickly, within hours.
Hours. Wow.
Yeah, you can subtly affect your energy, your mood, maybe worsen things like IBS for people who are sensitive.
Okay, so that's fast food. What about the whole food side?
Right, so contrast that with whole foods. These are things closer to their natural state, minimally processed. Fruits, vegetables, whole grains, lean proteins. They're packed with fiber, vitamins, minerals, complex carbs. So for that average American eating 3,600 calories, the quality of those calories really dictates if they're supporting body or contributing to problems. Whole foods give you more sustained energy. They help you feel full. They provide the micronutrients needed for like cell repair, preventing disease. Our materials really point to the fiber in whole foods, for example. It's not just about digestion. It feeds the good bacteria in your gut, which influences everything from your immune system to your mental health. It's like a positive cascade.
A cascade. I like that. It directly counters the inflammation you mentioned from processed foods.
Exactly. It's not just about counting calories. It's about the biological signals those calories send inside your body, down to your gut microbes.
That's a really powerful distinction, especially thinking about immediate inflammation and gut health. Definitely makes you reconsider that quick lunch option sometimes. Okay, so if fast food versus whole food is kind of the foundation, then the food wars really heat up when we look at the deliberate diets people adopt. You hear constantly about keto, vegan, Mediterranean. These aren't just meal plans, they feel like whole philosophies, right? Can you break down the basics of each and maybe why people get so passionate about them?
Right. Yeah, these three are definitely big ones. They represent really different strategies people use, each with its own logic for why it promotes health. It's good to understand them clearly. So first, keto, the ketogenic diet. Fundamentally, it's about drastically cutting carbs, usually under 50 grams a day, and replacing them with high-fat intake. The idea is to push your body into ketosis. That's a metabolic state where you start burning fat for energy instead of glucose, producing ketones.
High fat, low carb. Got it.
Yeah, but an interesting point from our sources is that the type of fat matters. It's not just eat more fat, like focusing on MCT's medium-chain triglycerides found in coconut oil might actually speed up ketosis and maybe even offer some unique brain benefits. It's more nuanced than just any old fat.
Interesting.
People often talk about weight loss, better blood sugar control, even benefits for neurological conditions.
Okay. And vegan, that's pretty different.
Very different. Vegan is probably the most absolute in terms of exclusion. No animal products at all. No meat, poultry, fish, dairy, eggs. Not even honey for many vegans. It's entirely plant-based.
Right. Fruits, vegetables, grains.
Legumes, nuts, seeds, yeah.
Yeah.
Often there are strong ethical or environmental reasons behind it, but nutritionally the focus is getting everything from plants. Research we looked at does link it pretty strongly to better heart health, lower cancer risk, healthier weight.
But there are challenges.
Definitely. You have to plan carefully to avoid deficiencies. Things like vitamin B12, iron, certain omega-3s, they're just more easily found in animal products, so vegans need to be mindful of getting those.
Makes sense. Okay, third one, Mediterranean. This one sounds nicer.
Well, it's less of a strict diet and more of an eating pattern. Inspired by how people traditionally eat in places like Greece, Italy, Spain, it emphasizes lots of vegetables, fruits, whole grains, nuts, legumes. Olive oil is the main fat source. Fish and seafood are common. Poultry, eggs, dairy are eaten, but moderately. Red meat is less frequent.
So more balanced, maybe?
In some ways, yes. But what's really fascinating from the research isn't just the food list, it's the whole lifestyle. Studies suggest the social aspect is huge. Eating together, enjoying meals, being active. It's often overlooked, but seems to be a big part of why it's linked to longevity.
Ah, so it's not just what you eat, but how.
Exactly. It frames eating as part of a wider culture, not just a set of rules.
That's really insightful, especially the details like MCTs and keto and the social side of Mediterranean. Goes way beyond the usual headlines. But you mentioned food wars. Our sources definitely show people advocating fiercely for one diet over others. Are these debates purely about the science, or is there more going on, like lifestyle identity, maybe even business interests? And importantly, what does the science actually say about which one works best long term for most people? Because they all aim to answer that core question, right? Fueling health or disease?
That's a really sharp question. And yeah, it gets complicated here. While each diet can point to studies backing certain benefits, the wars often mix things up. Sure, science plays a part. Different diets might work better for different people or conditions. But personal identity, ethics, like with veganism, cultural ties, even marketing. Companies selling keto shakes or vegan meat alternatives, they all fuel the fire. What our sources consistently suggest is there's no single best long-term diet that fits everyone. What works best often depends on your genetics, your gut bacteria, lifestyle, what you actually like to eat, and crucially, can you stick with it?
Ah, adherence. That's key.
Totally. The common ground in successful long-term health, regardless of the diet's name, seems to be focusing on whole, unprocessed foods and eating mindfully. Adapting principles, not rigid rules. But, adaptability doesn't always sell diet books or build those intense online followings.
That's a really important reality check, moving beyond the dogma. But, we've been talking mostly about individual choices, different diet philosophies, almost assuming everyone can choose freely. And that's just not reality for a lot of people. Which brings us to a really critical systemic issue. Food deserts in the U.S. We hear the term, but what exactly is a food desert? And what's its real impact on that 300 to 600 calorie average we started with?
Yeah, this is crucial. It completely changes the conversation about choice. Food deserts aren't just inconvenient. They are a serious socioeconomic problem. They basically change the whole fast food versus whole food equation for people living in them. So a food desert is generally defined as an area, often low income, could be urban or rural, where people have limited access to affordable, nutritious food.
Limited access meaning not enough grocery stores.
That's part of it. But it's more about what is readily available. Often it's convenience stores, gas stations, maybe fast food places. And what do they mostly stock? Processed stuff, high-calorie, low-nutrient food and drinks.
Right. Chips, soda, packaged snacks.
Exactly. And think about this stat from our research. In some city food deserts, the fresh produce you might find in a corner store, its average shelf life is less than half compared to a suburban supermarket.
Wow. So even if it's there, it might not be great quality.
Precisely. The quality, the freshness, the actual nutrient content can be compromised. It just adds another layer to the challenge. For families there, the practical choice often comes down to what's nearby, what's cheap, what won't spoil quickly. Suddenly, healthy eating isn't just preference. It's about access, cost, logistics. Can you get to a better store? Can you carry groceries on the bus? Can you store fresh food properly at home?
It totally reframes the idea of choice.
Absolutely. And if we connect this back to health disparities, to that fueling health or disease number, the impact is huge. And it's often cyclical. People in food deserts are way more likely to rely on those cheap processed foods, which, in turn, contributes heavily to obesity, type 2 diabetes, heart problems, all those chronic issues.
So systemic factors where you live, your income, maybe even historical issues like redlining, they play a massive role. It's not just individual willpower.
Not at all. It highlights how much is determined by the options available in the first place. It's a major public health issue, and it's deeply inequitable.
It really makes you think about the privilege of just having a decent grocery store nearby, something so many of us take for granted. It's easy to forget that the starting line isn't the same for everyone. I do remember reading in our sources about a community that turned an old lot into an urban farm, kind of fighting back, you know?
Yeah, those initiatives are so important, points of light.
Okay, so we've covered personal choices, the diet debates, these huge systemic barriers. Let's look forward now. The last piece of this puzzle seems to broaden the scope even more. Beyond just our own health to the planet's health, sustainable eating. What does that actually mean? And why is it so important when we're trying to decode the American diet, especially with our high-calorie intake?
Sustainable eating really is the next level, isn't it? It pushes us to think way beyond our own bodies. It's about making food choices that are healthy for us, yes, but also have a low environmental impact, a minimal footprint. This means looking at the whole food system, how food's grown, processed, packaged, shipped, eaten, and the less produced.
The whole life cycle.
Exactly. And our research shows a lot of the environmental impact comes from places you might not expect. Key parts of sustainable eating include things like cutting down food waste dramatically. Food waste is a massive source of greenhouse gases globally. It's shocking.
I've heard that. Something like a third of all food produced?
It's a huge number. Sustainability also means trying to eat more locally sourced seasonal foods, reduces transport emissions, supports local farmers. And a really big one is shifting towards more plant-rich diets. Producing animal products, especially red meat, just uses vastly more resources, land, water, and creates more greenhouse gases than most plant foods.
Right, the difference between beef and lentils, for example.
It's huge. Our sources quantify it many times more water and land for beef compared to legumes or veggies. Sustainability also involves supporting better farming methods, like regenerative agriculture, which actually tries to improve soil health and capture carbon instead of just depleting resources.
Okay, so connecting this back, what does all this mean for the future of how we eat, especially thinking about that average 3,600 calories in the U.S.?
Well, our current model, both the sheer volume and what makes up those calories, lots of processed food, lots of resource-heavy animal products, puts incredible strain on the planet. Moving towards more sustainable eating isn't just about better health for individuals. It's about ensuring the planet stays healthy, ensuring we have food security for generations to come.
It's interconnected.
Deeply. It forces us to see how our plate connects to the whole ecosystem. Our choices ripple outwards. It's really about building a food system that can actually last. One that's resilient, fair, and nourishes everyone without wrecking the planet.
Wow, okay. This deep dive really has been quite the journey. We started with that big question about 3,600 calories, health or disease, and we've gone through fast food versus whole food, the keto, vegan, Mediterranean debates with all their nuances. We faced the tough realities of food deserts and lack of access, and now landed on the huge implications of sustainable eating. It's so clear, isn't it? Decoding the American diet isn't simple. There's no single answer. It's this complex mix of personal choices, societal structures, and planetary impact. Thanks for joining us on this. It's been really illuminating.
It really has. And I think understanding these food wars properly means seeing that whole picture. It's not just about the nutrition science in isolation. It's about the social systems that shape our choices and the environmental footprint of those choices. It's all moving together. So maybe the final thought for you to consider, thinking about those 3,600 daily calories. How might understanding all these different layers, the personal diet science, the reality of food deserts, the need for sustainability, how might that empower you to think differently? Not just about what's on your plate, but about the whole system behind it and the kind of future we're creating with every bite. That's something worth chewing on.